Hello and welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci. I'm your host, Darci Smith, also known as Career Coach Darci. We are here to get down and dirty about careers, uncovering salaries, wild stories, backgrounds, and more from guests with some of the most eccentric professions each week. This podcast is presented by Onami. Back to Down and Dirty with Darci. We're on episode 25. Can you believe we've already had 25 episodes?
That's crazy.
Keep it rolling, baby. I love it. I'm so excited. Speaking of, if you are new to listening to the podcast, definitely go back and watch some of my favorites. I think The Magician doesn't get talked about enough. The Magician and Magician's Assistant, Box Jumper, freaking cool stuff. And I did watch Cocaine Bear this weekend. So we had the screenwriter that wrote that on here. So go watch that one. Raimee, what was your favorite?
I know. I think aside from this episode, that is today's episode, because personally, this was definitely, if not my favorite, one of my favorites. But I also loved all of the episodes we did. I mean, there's so many good ones at the beginning with Leah, Human Design. That was really interesting. Yeah. I feel like there have been so many careers that I personally never thought about. Oh, the stripper was one of my favorites. Jason, the essential sax man. That episode was really good. Honestly, they're all great. So binge them all, people.
I love it. I love when you're like, I didn't think of these careers before. Oh yeah, stripper.
Yeah, that
was
one.
Perfect. Definitely our best performing episode thus far. So if you haven't watched that one or listened, you can.
It was so enlightening, honestly. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And coming up, so we do have, we'll talk more about it in a second, but we do have a pilot coming on. So we talked to her, and then we also have, in the next few weeks, we have another career coach coming on. So I talked to her, and then we have a stunt double, which was freaking awesome. So she performs stunts and she doubles people and does her own stunts in movies and TV shows. So yeah, just a fun little plug for my own podcast and forcing you to listen.
It's worth it, guys.
It's worth it. Okay, so this past weekend, I went to a baseball game on Friday, and I am sharing this because I like the term hot girls don't gatekeep, because it allows me to refer to myself as a hot girl, number one.
Which you are, so then, yes.
Thank you. And then two, I don't agree with gatekeeping. So I'm going to tell everyone my little hack, because I've been going to these Giants games and getting like front row seats and for really inexpensive. So what I do is I wait until like an hour before the game, sometimes even less than that. And I go on SeatGeek, and then the way that they have it set up is they'll show like a big green circle if it's like the tickets are really, really good priced. And then I'll show like, red and yellow and stuff if they're not as good. So you just look for the green circles on SeatGeek. I always go to obviously row one first. And if it's a big green circle, then I'm like, okay, that's going to be good. So my last time we were sitting basically on between home plate and first base, and we had row one, and they were $40. Literally.
What?
$40.
Okay, I was going to ask how much that cost, and I was expecting like $200. $40?
Yeah.
Wow. So when you look before last minute, they probably are like a couple $100. So the key is literally waiting like a half hour before the game. Wow.
Yeah, so you can't really, it's more of a spontaneous buy. So it's not something you're going to plan out. Like the people that were sitting next to us, they were like, oh, where are you guys from? We're telling them, and they're like, oh, we drove 2 hours to be here. So they had bought their tickets in advance, and they were like 150 or 200, something like that. And so, I was like, this is the best hack ever. And we even found some like behind the dugout behind home plate, like in the dugout for like in the 200s, which is that's like really good for those types of, it's like, why would I do anything else?
If you can be flexible and just go whenever. I've never been to a Dodgers game, so I'm going to definitely be using this hack to spontaneously go. That's genius.
Yes. Yeah. I do think the Dodgers, they are probably pretty expensive tickets. I just think that the stadium just happens to be that way.
Yeah, it's worth a try. But, I'll let you know.
You should try it. Yeah, let me know. Post a little pic, show me. Speaking of gatekeeping, do you have anything to share from your end? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So this one is kind of like a depressing note a little bit, but I found this kind of travel hack this weekend. I have to fly home for my grandma's funeral. It's okay. She was 102, which is crazy.
Wow.
RIP.
Good
She's
life.
awesome. Yes, great life. But I have to fly back. And of course, it's a last minute flight. So the tickets from LA to Detroit were $850, which is just, are you kidding? So I looked up if there's such thing as a bereavement fare, and there is. The reason I looked it up is because there was an episode of Seinfeld where they're trying to get discount tickets with bereavement fares. And in the episode, they get 50% off. So I was like, maybe that's a real thing. And it turns out it is a real thing, except it's not 50% off. You can get anywhere from 5 to 25% off. So I ended up getting 10% off my flight, which, it's about $100-ish. It was like $80,
Still
but
something.
and it helped a little bit. But the real hack that I won't gatekeep, I don't know if you've heard of this. Have you heard of skip lagged, Darcy?
Never. No idea what that
Okay.
is.
So when I posted about how expensive these tickets were, a lot of people, and I've heard of this before, but a lot of people were DMing me like, oh, you should try Skiplagged. And Skiplagged is this website that will connect you with flights that have a stopover in your arrival city. So you know how there's tickets that'll go from LA to Newark, but the layover is in Detroit, but you can't actually purchase. No, so you purchase the full flight, but you just get off in Detroit.
At the layover.
Yeah. And somehow it's cheaper to do it that way, which is doesn't make any logical sense. So don't try to figure it out logically because it makes no sense. But when I looked up this flight where I wanted to get off in Detroit, it was actually only $400. So that's half the price of what the LA to Detroit flight was. It's literally the same first flight that I would be taking. And you're technically not supposed to do this. This is why it's kind of taboo. But there's a whole website, skiplag.com. And the one, thing about it is don't do it too often, because if the airlines catch on to it, they can take your status away, or, apparently they don't really care that much though, but worth checking out, especially for domestic flights.
I know. I was actually going to ask this as you were speaking. I was going to say, I don't know where I've heard this, but I've heard it's a bad thing, you're not supposed to. But I'm like, what are they going to do?
What are they going to do?
Allow you to buy tickets?
Right.
Have you fly? It doesn't make sense. And what does it matter? You're still paying for the flight that you're paying for.
Exactly.
So the seat's still taken.
Yeah. Oh, darn, I missed my second flight.
Yeah. I got too drunk in the airport. It seems like a regular Saturday.
They oversell the flights anyway. So it's that seat on the flight that you're missing, it's going to get taken by someone either in standby or because of the overselling situation anyway. So
yeah,
I don't know. I still went, I was too scared because I'm such a rule follower. Yeah.
I am thoroughly impressed by the bereavement things. I was wondering how you even found that out. But it was Seinfeld, and which is hilarious.
Seinfeld, and then a quick Google search.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of, obviously we have a pilot on, so we'll just stick with the travel content for a second here. But I learned something new recently that I totally forgot about. When you fly to Canada or fly from Canada, they have a very specific, I don't know, I'm going to butcher this, but a very specific thing where if your flight gets delayed by a certain amount of hours, they pay you back money. So
yeah, same with Europe too.
Really? Okay. Because if you Google it, I'm not going to, I don't remember the name of the website, but if you Google it, you'll be able to find it super quick, because that's what I did. And then all you had to do was put in your flight information. And they're like, oh, yep, that was delayed. And my flight was delayed when I flew back from Canada, and I literally got $400.
Yeah.
$400.
No,
I was like, what?
It's crazy. Yeah, there's a similar one for any flight departing Europe that's delayed more than 2 or 3 hours, I believe. There's a law called the EU 260 law. And same thing, you put in your flight and you can get compensated up to $600. So
that's amazing. Oh my gosh, we're just dropping all the knowledge here. I love it. I love it. Okay, speaking of knowledge, let's jump into our career column. How do I act when I get the offer and I actually want it? With a lot of exclamation points. I love this question because you kind of need to play it cool. If you get the offer and you really, really want it, you still should negotiate. So you don't want it to come off like you're going to take it right away. You want to play it cool. I'm going to look this over. I'm going to make sure it makes sense for me and my career and exactly what I want. take it home, take a day, maybe 2 days to look it over. Ask them what they expect as far as turnaround for an answer. Usually they'll ask you for 48 hours or something like that. But take it home, take some time to look over it. And that's really cool that you're excited. But I definitely still want to encourage you to ask them if it's best and final or if there's room for negotiation. Because you can always ask and they might come back and say, no, this is our best and final. At this point, you could have to decide if you're going to take it or not. But now that we know that you're excited, so then you can definitely go ahead and take it. But take the time first and then come back with your answer. How do I stand out when I'm applying to a job? So when a job opening comes up, obviously there's going to be a ton of people that are sending their resumes in. So you have to do those normal things. Here are some extra things you can do to help yourself stand out. So you can pull things from your resume that directly relate to the job and put them at the top of your resume. This is something I like to call the key highlight section. So you're highlighting specific projects or specific tools or skills that you've used that you know the job's looking for, and you're putting those directly at the top. So when someone opens your resume, they automatically see exactly what they need to see. So that's number one. Number two is after you apply, you want to directly go to LinkedIn, find the hiring manager or someone in talent acquisition, because it's not always easy to find the hiring manager. And you want to send a LinkedIn message, something that says, hey, I just applied to this role, really excited to learn more about it. Don't expect them to respond. What you're trying to do is make them know your name. When I was a hiring manager and people would send me those messages, I would go to my ATS system, so the system where people are sending in their resumes, and I would find that person's name because it made my job easier. I would search their name and then see if their resume was good, and if it was, then I could call them. So reaching out to people just because they don't respond doesn't mean they didn't see it, and it doesn't mean it's not working. So I would definitely do that. And then I would also recommend trying to find an email address. So if you go to Google, if you go to the website in general, you can usually find someone's email on their website and you can see how it's set up. So if it's first dot last name, or if it's first initial last name, whatever the cadence is there, you can email someone in a hiring position that you found on LinkedIn so you know their name. Email them and state that you applied to the position, maybe write down 2 or 3 reasons why you're a good fit. It just adds something a little bit extra. And again, you're getting your name out there. So it's worth trying. It's definitely good to do these follow-ups because there are a ton of people applying to jobs right now. Welcome back. Okay, let's freaking talk about Megan. The coolest person ever. First of all, we met her through the world of networking. Is it networking? I would say it's networking. So one of my good friends that I actually worked with, she is an Eagles fan, sports podcast. Here we go. She's an Eagles fan. So she was at an Eagles bar in Hermosa and met this girl there who's also an Eagles fan and happens to be a pilot. And then I was like, do you know any cool people with cool jobs? And she's like, I met this pilot who's
Amazing.
Really cool. So Megan's on the podcast. The amazing thing about her that I think is that she did this without any knowledge of the world of piloting. Like, she didn't have family in it or anything like that. She just went for it herself and was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to go Google, look at what I have to do and make it happen. And she flies private, which is obviously different than flying for like a Delta or a commercial airline. So it was really fascinating to me because it's not something I'm familiar with, even though you guys might think like, oh, Darci, you obviously fly private all the time.
I always thought that. So yeah, right? Very surprising.
I know. I had to just like make sure that was clear. Yeah. So it was like super, super interesting. And I know you were there with me for the pod. So you were just like the most excited human being.
I was so excited because, I've mentioned it before. I have a terrible fear of flying. I've gotten somewhat over it, but this episode honestly comforted me so much. I asked her a bunch of questions about flying and just hearing the perspective of all of the things that a pilot actually has to go through to be able to fly planes, and not even just fly planes in general, but they have to train like for specific jets that they're flying. It was so interesting. This was definitely, like I said, one of my favorite episodes, and Megan is just such a badass like girl pilot. I just think it's so cool the fact that she did this, like you said, she just one day went up in a plane and thought, wow, I love this, I'm going to pursue this. I think that's so interesting when people do something once and then they know that that's their thing. Like I've never had that happen to me. So cool.
I would be shocked if people listening, at least one person doesn't end up going to flight school. Because it had me on the edge of my seat. Like, I think I'm going to go to flight school.
Same. And the fact that they make good money and there's a need for more pilots right now. Like all you guys out there, when you're on those oversold flights and all the flights are packed, that's because there's not enough pilots now. And so please, if you're listening to this, go be a pilot and make the experience better for all of us.
Heck yeah. All right, well, let's get into it. We'll get back to that conversation in just a second, but I wanted to tell you about the super exciting brand new web series called Are You Kidding Me? It stars Sydney Raz, and it just launched this week. You may have seen Sydney on TikTok or Instagram sharing the things that he wished he knew before he was 30, and now he has his own show that's being produced by Onami. It's called Are You Kidding Me? And it focuses on Sydney as he explores unique careers, industries, and the people that make them work. I know you guys are going to love the first episode. It's on YouTube right now. Go check it out at the link in the show description. How many females were in your pilot school?
None.
Oh, you were the only one. I was hoping for that answer.
I was the only one.
Oh my goodness.
I've been the only one for a lot of companies, a lot of jobs. Although I did fly my last, we call it account. So my last job before the one I'm on now, I flew with another female pilot. And then we had a flight attendant, so it was all female crew.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. Welcome to Down and Dirty with Darci. Thanks so much for coming. How was the drive in?
Hello. The drive was okay. It was traffic, so
yeah,
LA. But,
typical.
Yeah, it wasn't so bad.
How long have you lived in LA? Are you
7-8 years?
Oh, wow.
Now?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, can you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Megan. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, which is how I know Laura because we're both Eagles fans. So
yes.
Go Birds. I grew up a pretty normal lifestyle, but I was a very, very rebellious teenager. I was always very independent, always just trying to do new things and explore new areas. And that led me to be somewhat of a rebel, and I got sent to military school when I was 15.
No way.
What?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and learned a lot there and ended up really enjoying it.
So like high school days were through military school?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
Like the threat in movies when parents are like, you're going to go to military school if you keep acting like this. You actually went.
How many years were you there?
I was there for about 2 years, give or take. I went to one summer school and then one full year, and then ended up actually going back my senior year because I realized how much I actually ended up liking it.
Oh, you liked it?
So,
wow.
Yeah, and then I wanted to join the Marines. I wanted to do the whole nine. But
awesome.
I hit you with a lot real quick.
Yeah. Okay, wait. So now, after you graduated from military, where'd you go? What
I went to
part of the country?
A high school called Massanutten Military Academy. It's in Virginia, so in Shenandoah County. So it was a little bit far from home. So, yeah, it was a boarding school.
Yeah. Did you have to have short hair?
No.
Okay.
So we actually used to wear our hair in buns. We slick it back, and then we would use a sock. So you'd cut off one end of a tube sock, and you'd roll it.
Sock bun.
Sock
like
bun.
Cadet Kelly.
Yes.
Movie.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, I still use them sometimes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. They're like, I think it was a couple years ago, it was like everyone was doing the sock bun, like right on the top.
Yeah, I'll still do it sometimes, and I'll be like, oh gosh,
It
flashbacks.
brings you back. Oh man. So then after you graduated, you said you wanted to go into the Marines. Did you end up doing that, or what did you do?
No, because everybody I knew who had experience had been telling me, okay, you can be commissioned as an officer if you go get your college degree. So that was the track I was on. I was going to get my 4-year degree, and then I was going to join as an officer.
Okay.
Instead of enlisting. So that was the plan. And then flying kind of introduced itself to me halfway through college, and then that's kind of the route I chose to go.
Okay. Yeah, we probably should have started with that. She's a pilot. We're just leading up to it. So where'd you go to college?
I went to Towson University. It's right outside of Baltimore.
Okay. So. And then you went to business school, and then when did you decide that you were going to go, is it pilot school? What's it called?
Yeah, so I have no pilots in my family. I really didn't have any mentors in aviation. I just was always very fascinated with airplanes, and I just loved watching them. I was all about it. So for my 18th birthday, my mom got me a demo flight, which is like an introductory flight. you go up in the little airplane, a little Cessna, and they let you take the controls. You can turn right, turn left, go up, go down.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
There's 2 sets of controls, so it's not just me, like, first time up there. But
you're like whipping.
yeah, like, I got this.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I loved it. I never wanted to stop doing it, so I just kept taking lessons because I was like, this is awesome. Still had no idea that I could be a pilot professionally. It was just like, as a chick, and you just don't think about ever being a pilot. It's just never something that's on the radar.
Right.
So,
pun intended.
yeah.
Sorry.
So as I was in college, I just kept taking lessons, just loved doing it. And when I graduated college, I got my private pilot certificate in the same month as graduating college. And I was like, okay, I could continue with my business degree and find something in the business world, which I would have loved to manage a company or something like that. Would have been fun. But aviation was where my heart wanted to go, and that's what I desired. So I went to an accelerated flight school after I got my first pilot certificate. And that takes me through, I think, 7 more pilot's licenses pretty rapidly. So you're training 7 days a week, 8 hours a day, constantly. So
you didn't have a job when you go through, and you don't get paid to go through school.
No, but
it's not like another. Some trades will pay you as you're learning.
Yes,
that's
correct.
not like that.
No, but it's a 4-month program. So I already went in with one of my certificates. Mm-hmm. So they call it 0 to hero when you go in with no experience at all, and then you end up leaving as a flight instructor. So I went in with my private pilot certificate I already had, and then I did the rest of my training up to being a flight instructor. And so at that point, you can either work for the company that you trained with, or you can go be a flight instructor at a little mom and pop flight school elsewhere. And that's what I did. So I know it's a lot, but
no, so that's why we're on the podcast.
Yeah. So I ended up leaving Baltimore, going to the accelerated flight school in Las Vegas. I was there for 4 months. And I got the rest of my training under my belt. And then I moved back to Baltimore as a flight instructor. And that's when you start getting paid.
Okay.
So then I started getting paid pretty close to minimum wage just to flight instruct.
And you're teaching people at other schools?
Yes. So It's not, where I taught was not an accelerated flight school. It's just a normal flight school. So that could take people anywhere from a year to 3 years to 5 years to get whatever certificates they want to get.
Got it.
And so you train them how to become a private pilot, a commercial pilot, flight instructor. There's all different types of ratings that you can get that just progressively make you more accredited.
More accurately, accredited.
Yeah.
What do you have in terms of what can you fly at this point?
So I have my ATP, which is airline transport pilot. And so basically I can be an airline pilot if I really wanted to. I have the highest license that you can possibly get. Okay. So I can fly pretty much anything I apply to. What really determines whether or not I'm flying for the airlines or doing what I'm doing now, which is private jets, is type ratings. So that and experience as well. So type rating is any airplane that weighs over 12,500 pounds. You have to go through specific training for that exact airplane, systems, limitations, everything under that umbrella for that airplane. And then you can fly that airplane. And that's about 3 weeks of school, 4 weeks of school, and it's expensive.
Wow.
So you find a company that will go type you in the airplane, and then you're good to go.
Wow. So like right now, I love airplanes. I'm afraid of them, but I like love knowing all of the different types. So right now, if you wanted to fly like an A330, you'd have to go for 3 weeks and learn about how to do it. And then you could just get in and fly to Singapore.
More or less, yes. In a vague answer, yes, that's exactly what you'd have to do. But then you'd also have to be hired by the specific company and then go through all of the company-specific training as well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So cool.
But when it comes down to actually flying an airplane, it's the same across the board. You know, maybe the airspace is the same everywhere you go. And I definitely do a lot more international flying than some of the airline pilots do initially. So there's pros and cons to each side.
How did you choose to get into private versus commercial?
So when I had finished my training, there had just been a regulation passed that required pilots coming into the airline world to have 1,500 hours. It used to be like 300 hours, and it's a very long story and kind of a little convoluted how that happened. Basically, there was a crash, and in order to appease really the public, they passed this hour requirement that anybody getting into the cockpit had to have 1,500 hours of flight time. So I could get into corporate prior to 1,500 hours. So that's how I chose to go that route, and then I just kind of stuck with it. And it's all who you know. So it's networking, putting your name out there, going flying with people, and making new connections. So that's the world of corporate.
I was like, where do you to fly private, where do you like submit a resume for that? Like you don't. Like,
you don't really. You can, but it totally helps knowing someone. So throughout the course of your training and flight instructing and whatever you might be doing, you meet so many other pilots. And as you stay in communication with them, that's kind of how, you find jobs.
Yeah.
So.
How many... Okay, wait. I have a million questions. I'm so sorry. Okay,
I just poured a lot on you guys. It's really hard to kind of compress all of it.
I love this. Okay, my first question, because it's been in the back of my mind, is how many females were in your pilot school?
None.
Oh, you were the only one. I was hoping for that answer.
I was the only one.
Oh my goodness.
I've been the only one for a lot of companies, a lot of jobs. Maybe sometimes there's been one other. Although I did fly my last, we call it account. So my last job before the one I'm on now, I flew with another female pilot, and then we had a flight attendant, so it was all female crew.
That's awesome.
Hell yeah. I like that. I like that. Was the person or the company, was it like female or male?
Nope.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes the boss in the back would be the only male on board.
Nice.
Wow.
I love that. And how many different accounts, because that's what they're called, right?
Yeah.
Okay, how many different accounts have you flown for?
I've only been on 2 full-time accounts.
Okay.
And then prior to that, here's another term that you'll learn. I was a full-time contractor. So contractor means you're not full-time with one specific airplane and one specific boss who owns the airplane. You fill in whenever someone's sick or whenever someone's on vacation. You go fill in, and you can fly that jet in place of them, as long as it's a jet that you're type rated in.
Got it. Okay. I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So my next question is I'm sure there's NDAs and things that you can't share, but from what you can share, what types of people did you fly for? Like industry wise or
Yeah. So when I started in the industry of corporate aviation, private jets, I started with what's called a charter company. So it's pretty much like Uber of the sky. You know, you're flying people one-way charters, whether it be to London, to Moscow, to Hawaii, to the Bahamas, wherever you're going. It's usually one-way charter. So we would have people charter the airplane. We'd go drop them off, and they do what they have to do. The charter company was where I saw the majority of celebrities and famous people. A lot of A-list people I flew, and there's a lot of perks that come with that as well. If you're on a tour and you're actually doing the tour for someone, a lot of times you'll get to go backstage and see the shows.
I'm imagining
and things
that you
like
did
that.
it for Drake or something. That's
she's
just
like,
what I'm going to tell
imagine.
myself.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
So that was
cool.
so
So
fun.
you get to join all of that.
Yeah. And I was like 25 at the time when I was doing it.
Oh
God.
yeah, this is the life.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome.
That is wild. And then so now you work for one specific person. You fly one specific plane, and you're the captain, correct?
Yes. There's 2 captains.
so
Well,
cool.
actually, we have 3 now. We just hired a 3rd pilot.
Cool.
So we have 3 captains and 2 flight attendants. And then
Wow.
a mechanic that is assigned to our airplane as well.
That is amazing. And then how does it work? Like, are you on call if this person wants to be like, hey, I want to go to Vegas tomorrow? Like, how does, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
And so we have things called hard days off. So hard days off mean you can't be called. You're free to do whatever you want. You're not on call. There are times where you are on call, and then, you have to be, usually, like the charter company I worked at, you had to be at the airplane within 2 hours. Some other companies will negotiate different call-outs. The one I'm on now is a 72-hour call-out. So it has a lot more time for you to figure out your schedule, to get where you need to be.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the perks. As you gain experience in the industry, you can cherry pick exactly what fits for you and curate a job that's really attractive. So for me, a longer call out is very attractive. I don't like having to be at the airport in 2 hours.
Right.
So,
because I'm just thinking, I like to drink. I like to,
Yeah.
and as a
Right.
pilot, you're like, okay, I could get a call. I can't drink ever
Right.
unless I have a hard day off.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
knowing a 72-hour, that would be ideal.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're pilots. We like a few.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. Everybody does. Just kidding. Kids, don't drink at home. Okay, where else can I go? The questions are spinning around so fast in my head that I'm like, I don't even know. What's the coolest place you've flown to or the most enjoyable for you?
Oh my gosh. I've been to just about 50 countries in general. The charter company is definitely where I did the most international flying. I would say probably one of the coolest was Adak Island, Alaska. It's one of the Aleutian Islands.
Cool.
Yeah, off the coast of Alaska in the Pacific. And there, it used to be a naval base. I think it was a naval base that used to be out there, and it was recently decommissioned. So the runway and the airport was still operative, but it was like deserted, and we had to go be positioned there prior to the jet coming in with the passenger because we were crew swapping. So the pilots bringing in the airplane were going to duty out. You can only fly for a certain amount of time. So those pilots were getting off, and we were getting on and flying it to Osaka, to Japan. And so we were there two days prior, and it was just like this deserted island in the middle of the ocean with like little snow-capped hills. There were bald eagles everywhere. It was just one of the most beautiful experiences of my life and completely unexpected.
That's so cool.
And it was like creepy and beautiful at the same time.
Right,
The
yeah.
combination was just so
Gosh.
it was really cool.
I love that. Oh
So,
man.
that
And
was
how
one of my
long, because in my mind, if you fly somewhere, like, I don't know where I heard this, but like, do you get a stipend or something to go enjoy your life while they're doing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we get per diem, but they also cover our hotels, our transportation, meals, everything is covered while you're there. So it's pretty much a free vacation. It's the greatest job in the world. So
literally,
I was just in Africa for, I was in Cape Town for 9 nights. And then I kind of hopped around. And so you're just in Cape Town. And the moment you're done and you button up the airplane,
your job's over.
Yeah.
And you're on salary, right?
Yes.
So you're salaried, you're going to get paid what you're going to get paid.
Yes.
So it's not like you're like fighting for hours to get behind, like in the cockpit.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you already know what you're going to make. And then when you're out doing all these things, you're not even spending your own money. That is amazing.
So cool. Okay,
Nope.
people who want to be a travel blogger, just be a pilot.
Just be a pilot.
It's true.
That's
It really
so
is.
cool.
It
What
combines everything. You make a great salary, especially right now. The industry is desperate for pilots.
Really?
It's wild.
There's a shortage because of COVID and flying and everything.
And all the baby boomers are retiring, and it's a whole thing. But
Wow.
So go be a pilot.
Yeah. Can you, speaking of anyone that wants to be a pilot, can you walk us through a little bit of what could someone make as a commercial versus a private pilot? And whatever you can share. I mean, I know there's ranges, but.
Yeah, so I'm not too well versed on commercial pilot salaries. I know that starting out, what they always say is first year pay in the airlines is not as good as what we'll make in corporate. And when I say corporate, it means the private jets. So I can speak from corporate. You can probably start making right around 80 to 100 first year pay, maybe second year pay. And then as you upgrade and your career progresses, you'll probably make we're making right now between 200 and 300 a year, which is pretty reasonable. Depending who you get on with as well. Sometimes you can go contract on the side and make a daily rate. That could be $2,000 to $3,000 a day. Okay. Just helping someone out. So it's a pretty good salary. And then for the airlines, it all depends on the type of trips that they pick up. So they can pick up trips that offer double pay or things like that. I know that they have an hourly range as well as a base salary. So
okay.
Can I look at me?
Yeah, look at it. Yeah. She's like getting details for us.
Dude, this is so cool.
This is so awesome. She's like texting a pilot friend to get some more salary deets.
I just flew back from Japan like 3 days ago. And so all of this is just so cool.
I know.
Yeah. Like
I love
you
it.
said, you flew to Osaka and I was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So once you get that, I also want to know pros and cons, because in my head I'm also thinking there's got to be some, because this sounds amazing, like I should probably just become a pilot,
right?
Yeah. But also I'm thinking about my little doggos at home,
and
I'm thinking anyone that wants to have kids or does have kids, there's probably, I mean, this lifestyle, it's a lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still probably single for a reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of time away from home. And I'm definitely at the experience level now where I could go fly for the airlines if I wanted to. That is more favorable for a family. It's more conducive with the schedule. You can drop trips and pick up trips, whereas me on an account, I'm dedicated to that account. Granted, with 3 pilots, we can flip around the schedule a little bit and give each other the time off that we really need. One of the other pilots we have has a son, so he wants to be around for all of his really memorable experiences. And so you kind of just, like I said earlier, you can curate it to what fits your lifestyle the best. I have a dog. She's 14, so she's been with me pretty much the entire time I've been doing this. I've had roommates who have taken care of her, and I live alone now, but I have like 4 different dog walkers. I have a house sitter. I have it all set up so that she just lives the best life she
chilling,
can when I'm not there. So
how many days out of the year are you flying or just traveling like away from home, would you say?
So I would say roughly maybe like 100, 150 days a year. But that can always change, and that also depends again on the account you pick up. I know some guys that hardly ever fly, and girls, sorry, yes, and girls. But yeah, it all depends. So I also just started on this job last August, so I'm kind of still feeling it out. I've been flying a little bit more than average because we've been doing big international trips, but yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Okay, what did you learn anything extra from the friend?
It looks like based on your seniority and the airframe that you're flying, about between $100 to $250 an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
I
believe
say that's on top of your base pay, but if any commercial pilots out there, airline pilots, please correct me.
Yeah, please correct if that's, but that sounds like I've actually listened to another pilot on a podcast because I wanted to learn like what they were talking about.
Yeah.
And that sounds like pretty much in line with what he was saying too. Yeah. So would you say, I mean, I know you have a bias because you're obviously in the private side, but what would you recommend flying private or commercial?
It's really hard. I think that the best recommendation, honestly, would be the airlines. This job is not cut out for everybody. It's definitely appropriate for me, but we call it the unicorn job. Like, I found a unicorn job. I love the people I fly with. I love the person I fly for. I like the company that manages the airplane. I like my pay. You know, it's all things that I'm very happy with, and I love the airplane I fly as well. So all of those things combined have made it the perfect job for me.
But I'm sure that there's pros and cons to each. And the way I would think is there's obviously going to be people that you don't want to fly for that may not treat you right and things like that. And that's in any industry.
Yeah.
Having a bad boss is literally what it is.
Absolutely.
So that can happen anywhere. You could also go to an airline and prefer to fly for a Delta versus a United or vice versa, you know? So I think
and the cool thing too about the airlines is that you get flight benefits, although it's tougher and tougher to use with how oversold the flights have been. But you get flight benefits for you and your family, which is fantastic. You practically, I mean, the general way to look at it is the longer you're at an airline, the more seniority you build, the less you fly and the more you make. So it's a pretty nice concept. However, the style of flying to me is very monotonous. And I personally feel like I could get bored doing the same airports over and over again. The layovers are short. You're spending time in a city that you would really love to explore for several days, and you're there for 24 hours, 48 hours.
Like quick turnarounds.
Yeah. So, you know, the travel is another aspect I love about my job is I get to go places and actually explore the cities and be with friends. I fly with friends.
Right.
So, you know, I get to see the world with my friends, and I'm getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool.
It's pretty amazing.
Is there how long do you see yourself doing this for?
Probably the rest of my life.
Yeah. Because I was wondering, like, what's the retirement age typically for
65 for the airlines.
It is. Okay.
For corporate, it's a little different. You can go into your 70s. It all depends where you're flying and what style of flying you're doing, and how sharp you are.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so to move up, whether that be financially or because right now, I mean, you're the captain of, you know, so I think that moving up would be mostly financial or maybe different types of planes.
Yeah.
Is that just working for different people, or is it like any other job where you would ask for a raise and like things like that?
Yes, you could ask for a raise, definitely, and people have. With the way that the pilot shortage has affected salaries and things like that, it's worked out very well in our favor, but it's taken the bosses some time to catch up to what has happened, because it's happening rapidly.
Right.
In our favor, but so I would say that how it works for the job I'm in currently, my boss will get a newer airplane, and that's actually on the docket for us. So he is sending us to type school, meaning I'll get type rated in the newer jet that eventually he'll pick up. So if you stay with someone and they upgrade the airplane, that's an upgrade, and that's also more pay. So you're getting a bigger airplane, a newer airplane, and you're going to get more pay. So you could stay with the same boss or owner. We call it the owner of the airplane, and I know it's a weird term, but
Owner, yeah.
we stay with the boss. If you stay with the boss for 10 years, you could see your salary increase quite a bit, especially if they're upgrading their equipment, the airplane.
Got it. Okay. My biggest question is, can you go fly wherever you want, whenever you want, by yourself?
Like, I'm just gonna hop on
Yeah.
the jet today.
Not his jet. I mean,
But
like,
just-
if you can, because let me give you some background story as to why I'm asking this. My boyfriend Ryan won't stop bothering me about wanting to take flight lessons, and so I ended up getting him like a flight lesson, whatever. He hasn't used it, of course, but he works too much. But he's like, I just want to be able to like get up and go and stuff, because we were looking into it, and you can rent planes.
Yes.
And so I'm curious if you are just like, hey, I want to go here for the weekend.
Yeah.
I can do that.
So I actually have a little plane. I have a little plane at Torrance Airport. It's called a
amazing.
Bonanza. I love it. So I can go fly wherever I want to. That's within range of the airplane and the capabilities of the airplane and weather, and things like that. But yeah, I mean, I have the appropriate licenses. So you need, it depends. So you can rent a plane with your private pilot's license. But if there's weather that you're going to fly through, you need your instrument rating. That's a whole nother more detailed way of flying. And so it allows you to go through clouds. It allows you to shoot approaches into airports where you wouldn't see the runway. So you have to shoot an approach in order to follow your instruments down to exactly where the runway would be. Yeah, I mean, aren't you ever looking out the window like, how do
no,
they see
literally.
that?
And I get freaked out when I can't see anything. I'm like, this is really scary.
Yeah. So there's a whole nother license or rating that you have to get in order to be instrument certified. And that allows you to fly in the clouds. And then after you do that, then you can get your commercial license, which just means that you can fly for hire. You can, get paid to fly. So it's a whole step up. So he could get his private and take the airplane whenever it's a gorgeous day, and you could go wherever you want.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
push him towards that
because
a bit more.
you're in San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So with the marine layer, that can be a little frustrating sometimes. In
Yeah.
Torrance, we have to deal with the marine layer quite a bit. So then you have to, even though you could be above the clouds at 500 feet,
You have to know how to get there.
To get through there.
well, you have to get through them
get
to
through.
land, right?
Yeah.
So you still need to have your instrument rating in order to do that.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah, because I was like, how badass would it be if you're like, maybe this is too much, but when you're like dating, you're like, oh, you want to just
my
go like
Tahiti for the
yeah,
weekend,
you want to
babe?
just
it's in Catalina. It's an 8-minute flight.
right? You're like, we can go get dinner over here. I'll take us in my plane.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's like my showboaty personality to be.
Yeah.
Like, if Ryan listens to this, he's like, oh, you're so annoying.
That's
I
going to be
love
him
it,
to you
though.
soon.
I know, right? I'm like, can you just do that? I love that. How long have you had the plane?
A
new?
little over a year.
Cool. Do you get to use it often or no?
I try to. So there's
Yeah.
a big air show called Oshkosh that is in Wisconsin. We do it every year, or I've gone to it, I think, 4 years in a row, maybe missed one with COVID. So it takes me about 13 hours to fly out there. I'll make 3 stops. I'll spend the night certain places, and I'll make it out there in the airplane. So I did that last year.
Cool.
That was a lot of fun. It's definitely a completely different style of flying than what I do professionally. So I enjoy them both the same, but it's just a completely different type of enjoyment.
Yeah. It's like learning new things and doing something different. How many can 2 people fit in it?
4.
4. Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
See, I have a fear of small planes, and I just need to know your tips really quickly
Yeah.
for fearful flyers, because I travel a lot, and it doesn't matter what plane I'm on, but I refuse to get on a small plane specifically because I don't know.
So my personal way of dealing with it is never trying to change someone's mind. I don't ever want to force someone to feel a certain type of way about flying. I want everyone to fall in love with it like I did. So I don't think that pressuring someone to enjoy it is the proper way to go about it. However, it's very safe. I'm sure you've heard it's, in comparison to walking across the street or driving a car, it's very unlikely that anything will happen as far as a crash or anything detrimental. Usually people are scared because they're not in control.
That's exactly what it is for me. But now I will say too, now that I've met you and I like have this trust with you, I would trust you to take me up in a small plane. But because I can't see who's flying, I try to even say hi to the pilot now before I board, even big planes, because it makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
So
You
that's
should.
one thing I do.
And all pilots love to talk about being a pilot. So
yeah.
if you get on a plane and you're like, can you tell me
Yeah.
something about this to make me feel better?
Right.
Or
Even
she'd
if they
probably
say,
like,
hey.
sure, absolutely. They would love to talk to you.
You're like, what type do you have? What
Right.
type?
Oh, tell me the type. Tell
What
me
type
your-
rating?
What type rating are you?
everything.
How many type ratings do you
Yeah.
have?
How many times have you landed a plane through the clouds?
Oh, I'm gonna ask that. I love when they like warn me when it's gonna be bumpy or whatever. I hate when they don't say anything and then I'm just like,
Yes.
Oh.
To be fair, though, there are some times there's something called clear air turbulence that is impossible to
tell.
forecast. So don't always get mad at your pilots if
Right.
if turbulence is not forecasted and they don't tell you about it, because sometimes we do hit it. But
Yeah.
going over mountainous regions, it's probably going to be a little bumpy.
Yep.
Okay.
Denver, areas like that.
So you've never had a job, like a regular 9 to 5 corporate office job? Because you went
Not-
straight into.
Yes, but I've also worked since I was 14. So I've worked at McDonald's. I've been a toll collector on the East Coast.
Nice.
I've been a waitress. I've done several different jobs leading up to, I'd say, a career.
Right.
This is my first career.
Career. Yeah. Because you didn't do the like postgraduate, get an office job type thing. You went, I'm going into.
Yep.
It's so cool. My favorite thing is that you didn't have any family or anyone in this world.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to make it.
I say that I pinch myself every day.
Yeah.
Because I really think I hit the jackpot. I feel like I have the best job in the world and I fly with the best people, and I'm very, very fortunate to be in the position I'm in.
is there anywhere you really want to fly that you haven't yet? Like even a place you just want to go or
Patagonia.
Oh, heck yeah.
But
I wanna go so
apparently we're
bad.
going. We'll see.
Oh,
I don't know. That's
okay.
the boss made a mention of it. But
How
we'll see.
much in advance do you know your schedule? Like, do you know the year in advance? This is where I'm going. This is how I can make plans. Or
For
no?
the big international stuff, yes, we know pretty well in advance. So September we're doing a trip to Greece. So that'll be fun. I've never been to Greece before. So that'll be a really fun trip.
She has really good Greece. Like,
I went in
Rex.
September
Yeah.
2 years ago. It's
Oh, nice.
perfect time of year to go.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah, we're going to go for a pretty long time. So
Nice.
amazing.
So that'll be fun. And so, yeah, I know my schedule pretty well in advance, and that gives me time to prep with the dog and figure out who's going to cover her and things like that. So you definitely have time to, schedule your life. And what's cool about my job is generally during the weekdays, we are flying to one particular city in the U.S., and then we're back every weekend. So it's like, you're flying 3 to 4 days during the week, and then you're back on the weekend. And then you have these big international trips sprinkled out throughout the year.
Dream.
And so
It's literally like how I want to plan my regular life.
Yeah, my regular right. Like, how do I get a job on this plane without flying it?
Yeah.
You can also be a corporate flight attendant.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've heard that's an
Backup plan.
amazing gig. I've talked to a few people that have done it, and they were like trying to lure me in, and it wasn't very hard. I was
Right.
like, I could do that.
Yeah, and I think the corporate style is what I would want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
just remember, you have to climb
Yeah,
the
you
ladder
have
a
to
little
climb.
bit. It doesn't, I definitely am very in a position that not everyone is in.
Yeah.
So I'm doesn't mean you're going to get to that point right away.
Right.
But
No.
My last question comes back to money, just because I want, if anyone is super interested and is like, wow, I could probably do that, what should they expect to pay? Like, is it like you were saying earlier, it's like a college tuition?
yeah,
right? Is that
essentially,
kind of
if you want to do it professionally.
Okay.
So I think that the hourly rate right now to rent an airplane and an instructor is probably like $170, $180 an hour. And so everything in aviation is hours. So you want to say, okay, maybe 40, 50 hours to get my private pilot's license.
Oh, okay.
And you figure it out that way.
Got it.
And then you
Yeah.
can rent the same airplanes you train in. Those are the ones you can go rent after you get your license and fly them wherever.
Okay. Because I would think that I would, if someone was like, I'm dedicated, I'm going to become a pilot now, you would like take out a loan. It's the same way you would like pay for school.
Yep.
And be like, I'm going to set aside this money, because you can't really work, especially if you're going through like the full program, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, if you're doing the accelerated flight school.
Okay.
If you're not doing an accelerated flight school, then yeah, you can work. However, my recommendation would be knock it out, and that way you can start making money and building your experience in the world of aviation, and that can get to your end goal faster. And right now, that is a very lucrative end goal.
Yeah,
So.
that makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything about flying that people don't know that you wish they did know?
Oh, that's a good one. I think that you should regard your pilots with a lot of respect and understand that they're trying their best to get everyone on the ground safely, especially in the airlines. They're working really hard as well. And so just, treat your flight crews with a lot of respect, flight attendants, everybody.
Second that. Yep.
Yes. People
Yeah.
are crazy in the airports.
Yeah.
I always write like a little handwritten note and bring them a Starbucks gift card.
Oh,
because
that's
it
so
also
cute.
makes me feel more safe. Like they'll protect
Well
me.
caffeinated,
Yeah.
please.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I think that, there's so many other things that you can see just from the cockpit, like the stars, and, you'll see the Aurora Borealis. And it's such a beautiful and peaceful time when you're just at cruise and there is no turbulence and you're just admiring the world from 40,000 feet. And it's just...
I
That
literally
sounds
got chills.
magical. Yeah, I know. I'm like, did I ruin everything about my life and I should have been a pilot?
But I've flown with some pilots at one of the companies I worked for when I was a contractor that didn't start flying until they were 45, 46. So
There is hope for
There's
us.
hope.
I mean,
absolutely, there's people who've done it as a second career for sure.
oh, so cool.
Yeah, so the airlines might not be the way to go if you're going to start as a second career, because that's all about seniority.
Yeah.
So you're not going to build as much seniority as someone else at the same age range, but people do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming on and like sharing everything about
course.
being a pilot with us. I'm like inspired and excited. And now I just want to fly. I'm not afraid of flying. I
know.
love it.
I feel
am
less
all
afraid.
about
I
it.
do. I feel less afraid right now.
I like when the turbulence goes. I'm like, yeah. I'm like looking
here's-
around.
I'm like that if I have my little Xanax, and I'm like, woo.
A fun fact, I believe, and it's been a while since I read this little tidbit, but on a 737, so like Southwest flies 737s, the wings can bend up and down. I think it's 30 feet.
So crazy.
So like turbulence is not going to make the airplane go down.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Very
30
unlikely.
feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
it's not going to break off a wing.
So enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a roller coaster.
We're sports
Yeah.
frogs.
Right. I love it. Well, I usually ask people like where they can find you social media wise. I don't know if you want people to find you.
Sure.
But if you do, share your socials with us. Do you post like from the plane and everything?
Yeah.
Oh,
I have a
amazing.
lot of
Yeah, I'm
stuff.
about to follow right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. What is it?
It's Meg Volpe, so MEGVOLPE_.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thank
And
you.
Sorry, I was
yeah.
chewing gum the whole time.
No,
Oh my gosh.
totally fine.
But yeah, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to That Onomy podcast. Onomy is a creator-led educational platform that teaches you the things you wished you learned in school so you can thrive in adulthood. Onomy lessons are completely free and they're taught by some of your favorite creators from around the internet. Head to onomy.co to start learning about things like budgeting, investing, taxes, how to thrive in your relationships, how to find your dream job, and so much more. That's onomy.co, onomy.co. See you there.